everyone, and welcome to my corner of the world. And hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. My computer was talking back to me. Okay, so welcome to my corner of the world, and welcome to Sunday's live. Today is January the 29th. Here we are, the last few days of January already, 1 month into the new year. So today I thought I would look at some of the specialty papers that we have in our new mini catalogue. And I was cutting up the product share that I've been running yesterday, and I was looking at the papers, and that's what really inspired me today. So we're going to be using two of them. One is going to be the designer vellum, and then the other is the textured shimmer paper. Now there are others which I will be sharing, I'm sure, over the coming weeks, but those are the two that I'm focusing on today. So if you are out there, maybe you would just make a comment in the chat box, let me know that you're there. So these are the papers. So the vellum is like a very flat but printed on vellum, and there's kind of a leafy effect, polka dots, and then stripes. So if you were familiar with the vellum they had in the Christmas catalogue, that kind of was like, one type had like a flocking on it. It was kind of fluffy. And then there was another one which had like iridescent printing. So this one is a bit more muted, and perhaps a little bit more sophisticated. So we're going to use that on one card, and then the other is this textured shimmer paper, and you can see that, hopefully you can see that it is actually shimmering away here, and it has three colours: the balmy blue, the white, and then this is shaded spruce. So those are the three colours that we've got in the pack. And then I thought I would use this bundle. So this is called the Two Tone Flora bundle, and it's got two-step stamping. So if you've not done two-step stamping, or if it's since it's a while since you've done it, we'll be able to remind ourselves together how that works. And then there's some coordinating dies. And because this die set doesn't have any greetings, I'm going to be going with my real favourite go-to greetings stamp set. I really love this one. I hope it's in the catalogue forever. And I've used it a lot. If you haven't seen it before, it's got lots of greetings, but they've got like 5 useful ones, like happy birthday, thinking of you, thank you, just a note. And then they've got it in 3 different sizes and fonts. And then there's this very cheeky little hello here that is also quite useful. So those are my supplies. Now, as always, I've done a little bit of thinking ahead of time of what I'd like to do, but I've not actually done it. So this is going to be a voyage of discovery for all of us. Now, one of the dies in this particular set is this one, and it's like a full quarter sheet size die, and it is just so pretty. And I have had a little play with it on some scrap paper, and one of the things that I noticed is that it doesn't actually cut the very edge of the paper. It will cut the design out, but you need to cut your piece of paper first of all to be able, if you want it to sort of fit a card. So this is a 6x6 piece. I've decided I would use the balmy blue, This is 6 by 6, so I would need to cut this down to fit it on to my card. Now I'm going to get my trusty trimmer out, and I did measure this up to see what it was size wise, and it is literally 4 1/16 by 5 3/8, I think is what it is. So if I cut a piece 4 1/4 by say 5 1/2 and use that, and then I can always trim it down afterwards. So I'm just going to take my 4 1/4 and then 5 1/2, stick that out the way. There, that's going to, oh, you can see actually it's a weeny bit too wide. Okay, but I'm going to go with that because I can always trim it off a little bit afterwards. Right, so I'm going to get my cut and emboss machine out, and for this one I am have to use the large one because this is quite a large die. So I've got my number 1 plate, that's my big thick one. I've got my number 2, which is the die converter there, give a bit of extra thickness. 1 of my clear plates, and then I'm going to put my paper and my die down. And I'm going to use some tape, just hold it in place because I don't want it to move while I'm putting it through. And I'm going to make it belt and braces and really make sure that it's firmly tucked down. Alright, so then plate on top, and I'm going to slowly crank this through because I don't want, well, I do want the blades to have time to cut through my card, and if you go too quick it makes it difficult for those blades to really cut through. Okay, so before I move anything I'm going to double check to see if it's actually cut through. It looks a weeny bit doubtful there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it back through, and I'm going to put a little shim of paper. I noticed when I was playing with this die earlier that with my machine I needed to just add a little bit of extra thickness. And every machine is different. Yours might not need it, but as I say, this one needs to go through a second time. Just makes it a weeny bit more difficult. There we go. And let's just hope it's all cut this time. Oh yes, I'm much happier with that. All right, so we're going to take this off, and ooh, looky looky. All right, now there's a few little pieces that haven't quite moved. So I'm just going to get my little brush and just gently nudge those out of the way. And let's do a quick check. Oh, there's a tiny little one there and there. And there I think I'm done. And I think you can see this really well on that black. I wonder if I should just bring us a little bit further in so you can maybe see a little better. So I'm really happy with that. Now my brush I can use to get these spare pieces out, but you can just tap it like that and get loosen them. And this is my take your pick tool, and this little brush is an additional accessory that you can get to, as I say, get the pieces out. All right, so that's that bit done. And I've got some lovely mess. Let me just clear that up so it's not distracting and getting in the wrong place when I come to do a little bit more with my card. All right. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit, as I say, it's got a little bit of extra here that I'm not happy with. And I want to pop it on a white card. I figured that with it being on a white card, it would really give that beautiful paper a lot of pop. So out with the trimmer, and we're just going to trim a little bit away. Now, because this paper is so beautiful and has its own statement, I'm thinking I'm not going to do an awful lot of extra work on it. I think I'm going to let it speak for itself. And I think I've got quite a good frame there. Let's pop this over like this. All right. If I fold my card in half, maybe it gives me a better chance. Now, I've just had a thought, but it's too late to bring the thought into action. I thought it would be a good idea if I had put some adhesive sheet on the back. But it's too late now, but it would have been a good idea. So let me see. I've got this, and it is a tiny bit too big, so I'm going to have to do some trimming. I think top and bottom. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just get the trimmer here and just... So I can see folks out there watching, so why don't you just put a little comment in the box and let me know that you're there. Okay, I've got a little bit of a snafu. It's because it's so delicate. I'm going to finish trimming it for fear of damaging it. Like that. There we go. Yeah, the blade just kind of caught up with the paper. If I'm trying to take such a thin sliver, it just took off. Right. I'm not having an awful lot of luck with this particular bit of trimming, but note to self to make sure I really cut this accurately before I cut it with my die. Right. Oh, now come on, behave. Let's see. Okay. Now my edges are a weeny bit laggy there, and I'm wondering whether or not I should frame. I've had a thought. I'm going to trim off my border altogether. And this isn't going to work. So I'm going to trim this off with my snips. There. And I'm going, I think, to put in a border frame. So that means when you cut this piece, you can cut this piece a little bit smaller, and then you won't have to trim the frame off like I'm doing now. But I think I'm going to be happier with the finished result if I trim this down. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think I like that better. Alright, so since I didn't put any adhesive sheet on the back, we're going to have to use some liquid, and I'm just going to put little dots on areas that are quite large, just to make sure, and it sticks. Let's see. I just need to very, very carefully, because I don't want it to swamp out. Right. I'm just going to layer that on and just gently press down for the adhesive. I just need to add a tiny little bit onto that area there, like that. Okay, so that's really, really pretty, but it's kind of unfinished. Now, I wondered about putting a frame around it. So I'm going to take this piece of card and I'm going to cut it down to, it's a quarter sheet, so if I cut it to 4 1/8, and 5 and 5/8. Let's see what we've got there. Will that cover? That will cover and give me a really nice little margin around the edge. So now to make a frame. Now if you've never done this before, this cutter is wonderful at creating frames. Now I'm going to have, I think, let's see, if I do like 3/8, let's see what I would get. So a 3/8 frame or a quarter. I'm going to go for a 3/8 frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position my paper edge at 3/8. So that's going to be, that's a quarter, so 3/8, sorry, that's a quarter. So 3/8 is going to be just there. So I'm going to position my paper at the 3/8 mark, like that. And I'm going to position my blade at 3/8. So I'm going to start at 3/8 here, and so I'm just looking at my little gauge here, and I'm going to go down so I get a 3/8, finish 3/8 before the end. So this is 1 and 5, so this is going to finish at 5, There's my first cut. And then I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to again put my card edge at 3/8. And this should already be on the 5, so I'm just going to bring it back up to the 3/8 mark. And then again I'm going to turn it, place at 3/8. And that's at my 3/8 mark, and this time I'm going to bring this down, and I can see my cut, so I can just bring this down. So this is 4 1/8, so I need to bring it to 3 3/4. Like that. And then my final cut, and I'll show you in a minute how I'm making sure that this is all in the right place. Oh, okay, 3, there we go. Right, and so there's my frame and my spare piece, which I'll put to one side. Now, where I was taking my measurements from is that there's a mark on the cutting blade here, and that is directly above the blade itself. And then down here we've got the marks, and you can see I've put a little strip of paper just there to make sure that I can see it, and I just slide it down until I get to the measurement that I want down here, and that's how I use it. So with my newly made frame, I'm just going to use some more adhesive. Make sure I got nice even borders, top and bottom. And then I'm just going to use my bone folder, I think, to just smooth down that. Like that. Again, very simple layout, so all the impact is in that lovely die cut, and then just, I think, a simple greeting. And as I said, we're going to use the go-to greetings. I think that one will go on there, so I just need a block. And I'm going to use Night of Navy because it's got a bit of extra depth over the blue. So let me just make sure I get this lined up. Ooh, not bad. And so we're just going to trim off. I think that's a weeny bit wide, so let's get all the dangerous ink out the way and get to our trusty trimmer again. I'm just going to take a little smudge off of there. Oh, I think that's better. Yeah, it's not so wide. Now maybe what I could, no, it'll get lost. I think, let me see what I might do on that. I think I am just literally going to put some dimensionals on there. like that. And just have it maybe just up slightly. And because it's me, we're going to have just a few pearls just to give it a little bit more sparkle. So perhaps I'll just put a couple on those blossoms. Maybe one up there. And for some reason folks say these things should go like in odd numbers, so I'll put 5 on. Alright, so there we have a card. We've got a birthday card where we've featured the textured shimmer specialty paper, and we've just let the paper do all the work with a couple of pearls on there. So that's our first paper. Now our second paper is the vellum. Now when I was looking at this, it struck me that to get the best out of the vellum, it needed to go on a darker background. So I'm going to use this time, I'm going to use basic grey, and I thought that my card base could be the smoky slate, and I could do that. So that's my thought to start with, and so that's what we're going to go with. And I'm going to use the leafy one rather than the dotty or the stripy one on here. So let's get out my trusty thing again. Now this piece of cardstock is 3 and just about 3 1/4. So I'm going to do this exactly in half. So I'm going to cut this at 3, and that means I shall be able to get 2 pieces, 2 cards out of 1. And then my card base is 5 1/2. So I'm going to cut this bit at 5 1/4. And so I'm going to cut this bit at 5. So there's my pieces. So that's that. Oh, I'll just put this away so it doesn't fall and clatter. So there's my pieces. Now with vellum, you need to be very mindful of where you put your adhesive. So on this, I'm going to use some glue dots, and I'm going to stick them behind the sort of opaque bit, the printing. Now because it's quite light, it doesn't need to have lots and lots and lots of adhesive on it, but just enough. So I'm just going to put 4 pieces, 4 in these, just in these corners, like that. Oh, there, it fell on, it's stuck on my finger. Alright, so just line this up and just press it down. And so I'm going to pop that on this side. Okay, so I've got a bit here that I don't like, so we're going to do a little bit of stamping. And let's get me now, what stamp shall I use? Now, think, see, I got some stuff ready. So I've got my stamps logged on, and I also my colours. So I'm using basic grey, and I decided that I would also use Highland Heather. So I'm just going to put a little row of leaves down the side just to give it some interest, like that. And then that's going to go on like that. So that was part of the reason I was thinking that I would like to use the leafy vellum, because I could really make the leaves sort of shout at me on the card. Right. The other part of this stamp set, so as I said, I'm using the two-tone flora. So here's the little leaves here that I've just used, and I'm going to be using these flowers with the coordinating dies. Now, let me think. So you've got a pair, so like this one and this one go together. This gives you an outline and this gives you the fill-in. So that's a pair. And then there's another pair, which is, I don't think I've loaded this one up because I wasn't going to use this one. But there's a backing for that one as well. And then there's this one here, which is the backing, and then this is the fill-in, and then the leaves, and then I'm going to use these leaves as well. So I've got some scrap paper, and I'm going to stamp everything, and then I'm going to cut. So this is a lovely leaf. You'll be able to see when I stamp it. It's a really lovely leaf. There. So I decided I would do that, and I'm going to do some of these as well. Now, I'm not brave enough to cut all of these together, so I'm going to do some cutting separately. Right, so then I'm going to do my flowers, and as I said, I'm going to do my flowers in Highland Heather, and this time I'm going to do a stamping off technique. So I'm going to start with my outline. You'll see what I mean when I talk about outline in a minute. And I'm going to use full strength ink for this one, like that. There, see what I mean? It's kind of an outline. And then I'm going to take the filler, and I'm going to, if you may be able to see that on my outline there's these like little stamens here, and on this piece there's also the little stamen. So I'm just going to line those up. So I'm going to ink this up one time, and then I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to line up and stamp my filler. So there's my one flower, and I'm going to repeat with the next one. So the outline, I'm going to stamp full strength, and then the filler, again, you've got these two little, this little sort of lazy W here, and it lines up with the little lazy W in the middle here. So I'm going to stamp this down, stamp off, and then line up. So you can see why this is called two-step stamping. So there's my flower and my fillers. Aren't they pretty? Right, so we're going to clear the decks so I can get my cutting machine out again. And now if you have a mini cutting machine, you can use that for these, because this is a lot smaller. These are smaller dies than the one I just had. Right. So I'm going to lay down the same as I did before. So I've got my big base plate. Then I've got my my die piece, a plate, and then I've got my dies. And we're just going to line it all up, put some tape down to just make sure that the little devil doesn't move, and then get my top plate and crank on through. Now if you're brave enough to load more than one on at a time, you can crank these out. So there's my little leaf, which is really pretty. So that's the first piece, and pop that there. Now my flower. Now the large flower I'm going to cut. Okay, so anybody out there liking what we're doing so far? I think as we're working our way through, I just wanted to remind you that whilst I think of an idea to use for my lives, and I pull together some bits and pieces, some product, I don't prep anything. Well, I don't make a sample or anything ahead of time. All I'm working on is my thoughts as I work my way around the design. So there I've got my flower. There's one flower. And then there was the smaller flower. Now when I first used this die, I kind of played with it. It was a bit difficult to see how it kind of went. So I kept on turning and turning and turning until I found the way it went. And this actually, I marked it with a little bit, with a Sharpie, and that's the bottom. So I know now that I can just line up the bottom like that. And that is my orientation. And what did I do with my bits of sticky? There we are. And then I've just got a couple more to do. Okay, I can see some of you have joined me from the big wide world. And just let me know in the chat box where you're from. And then I'd love to know if anybody has got any comments or questions about the cards that we're doing. So if you joined us a little bit later, I'm using some of the specialty papers in the new catalogue, that mini catalogue that we have, and one of the new bundles which is called the Two-Tone Flora Bundle. Which has the stamps with the coordinating dies. So when I'm working with my dies, I have a little pot on my table and I pop them in there, and that way I stand a chance of not losing them when I'm working, not sweeping them onto the floor, not sweeping them into my little rubbish bag here. All right, so now I've got my pieces. So that's what we've got so far, like that. So here I've got my flowers like this. Didn't cut that one terribly well, but never mind, we'll tuck it behind something like that. Maybe moving it up. All right, any comments? What do you think so far? Now, I'm going to need an insert. So I'm going to simply I'm just going to stamp those leaves inside. But I've tidied myself up and I can't find my ink. There we go. I'm just going to pop that there. And maybe I'll do one in the other corner. So that's my inside piece. And I've slowed down on the front there because I'm trying to think about... Well, hello Sandra from Georgia. Thank you very much for joining me today. Are you enjoying my card? Okay, so there's my inside piece. So now I'm in an ahhing about whether or not to use some ribbon, because I'm a big softie when it comes to ribbon. I'm going to use some ribbon. I am going to use some ribbon. Right. Now I haven't got my sticky tape here, so I'm going to have to use a couple of glue dots, but that will do it. Do you do much card crafting, Sandra? All right. Now I could have coloured this. I did pull out my Stampin' Blends. I thought about colouring this in the Highland Heather, but I think I'm going to leave it white for now. And we're going to have some dimensionals on the back. If you watch me regularly, you'll know I try to do one on each corner and one in the middle, but I've put an extra one here today. Ooh, it came off in my finger. Right. Oh, there, that went underneath there. All right, so now I can have my flowers coming out of because, all right, what do you think? Any suggestions? Okay, for friends and family mostly. I do a lot of cards for friends and family. Now, I was going to make this a birthday card, but I don't think I'm going to put a greeting on it at all. I'm going to let all that I've got on there speak for me. Anybody? Got any comments on that? Right, I'm going to go for it. So I'm going to start by using some liquid adhesive on my leaf. I need to get my glasses. Right. I'm just going to put my big leaf up there. And then this piece, I think it would be wise to use 15 a month. Oh my goodness me. That is a lot of cards. Most of mine go to family and friends in the UK. So I have to send like international. That's where that's where all of our family live, except it's only my husband and I that live here in the US. So I'm just going to pop one of the leaves there with a glue dot. And I'm going to have him hanging over the edge there a little bit. And I think now I've got those down, I'm going to use a dimensional for this one. And I'm going to use another glue dot. And I'm going to tuck it behind that small flower so that it doesn't actually get lost. I'm worried that flower will get lost. Now we're going to do a bow. I use the rabbit ear method. I've got videos on how I use ribbon in my various projects on my YouTube channel. You can always look them up. I entitled them Mastering Ribbon because you have to be in charge of ribbon. You can't let it bully you. And I'm going to pop him there. And because I haven't got a greeting and I don't have any other bling, if friends in Poland and some in New Zealand. Oh wow. Well, I am actually myself going to New Zealand in April. I've never been before, so I'm really looking forward. Hey Christine, thank you for joining me. Now, because I used some, I'm going to get my pearls out again. I am just going to scatter a few pearls just to pull everything in to my flowers. Now I could go ahead and put a greeting, but to be honest with you, I think I've got enough on there. I don't need a greeting. I could always write or stamp happy birthday or thank you or thinking of you on the inside. Right. So there are my two cards today where I have featured two of the specialty papers that we have in our new mini, as well as this bundle here called the Two-Tone Flora, which allows us to do two-step stamping. Oh, has anybody got any questions? Anything I can help you with? If you weren't able to join me at the top of the live, then you can always watch it again. It'll be live shortly. Sorry, it'll be on the channels shortly. If you have enjoyed my live today, perhaps you'll go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you don't subscribe, you could perhaps do that as well. And any comments that you have, I would certainly enjoy reading. Well, I will be back next week with another live. I need to think of something between now and then. Well, thank you, Christine. I'm glad that you like them, and I've enjoyed working through them with you. Well, I am going to say bye-bye for now, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye for now.